Bruce Springsteen and his E Street Band have canceled their concert scheduled for tomorrow in Greensboro, North Carolina, to protest the state's new law blocking anti-discrimination measures for gay, lesbian, and transgender people. Springsteen said the law overturns progress in recognizing the human rights of all people. His boycott is one of a growing number of economic hits to North Carolina and other states adopting similar laws. Joining me now to discuss that is Politico reporter Kevin Robillard. Joins us from Washington. So how significant has this been for North Carolina? I mean, it's been bad press for them all week, but does this make an economic impact?
Clearly, it's starting to have one. Last night, there were some reports from the North Carolina media that, significant numbers of conventions were either canceling or reconsidering going to North Carolina, which is something that translated to, the thousands, potentially the tens of thousands in hotel room stays. And, chances are when you're staying in a hotel, you're also, going out to eat and, purchasing things at nearby stores for your family or whatever. So, yeah, this is something that has a ripple effect when, these boycotts or decisions not to go to North Carolina start stacking up.
I heard the NBA All-Star game is supposed to be in Charlotte next year, and even Charles Barkley is asking for it to move, a former player and a commentator. There was also PayPal. They pulled the opening of a 400-person facility in the state.
Yeah, that was a really significant one because also one thing that every state is trying to do is trying to woo tech companies like PayPal to their state. So if these tech companies in particular make a big stand on this, that's something that could really discourage governors like Pat McCrory in North Carolina from passing these similar laws. And you've since seen a lot of Democratic governors who are sort of trying to maybe stick it in the eye of North Carolina, sort of put out their hands and say, hey, PayPal, come here. The Democratic governor of Montana, for instance, said, hey, PayPal, we'll come up with a tax package for you to move here instead of moving to North Carolina.
What's also interesting is it seems to pit two different sides of the Republican Party, the pro-business side against the social conservative side.
Yeah, and this is, an ongoing fight between the Republican Party. They have these two wings, and these two wings are always going to clash just on the base level over what the Republican Party should prioritize. But this is an instance where these things are coming into direct conflict. And that's really a problem for a lot of Republicans because the social conservatives tend to provide sort of the grassroots of the Republican Party. They're the Republican Party's most reliable voters. But the business community is, quite frankly, where most of the money funding the Republican Party comes from. And that's their biggest source of money so that they can air TV ads and whatnot. So it really is a situation where if you're a Republican politician, you don't want to anger either one of these groups. So far, however, in this fight, the business community is winning just because they seem to have the economic leverage. And you've seen it used in North Carolina, and you also saw it used very well in Indiana, which had a very similar controversy last year.
Does this trickle up, at least on a national scale, either in the presidential election or in other, let's say, gubernatorial elections around the country?
So in the presidential election, so far, it hasn't really impacted the GOP primary all that much. That said, at this point, a majority of Americans do support gay rights, and it hurts the image of the Republican Party in general. So that's something that, don't be surprised if you see Hillary Clinton really going out of her way to speak out against laws like this if she becomes the general election nominee. As for gubernatorial races, yeah, there's really going to be two on the ballot in the fall where this is really going to be the central issue. Pat McCrory from North Carolina is up for re-election in November. He's facing the Attorney General of North Carolina, Roy Cooper. And then in Indiana, which again had a very similar controversy last year, Mike Pence is facing a Democrat named John Gregg. Both of those are expected to be very, very contested elections and two of the closest governor's races in the country. And this might turn out to be the decisive issue in both of them.
All right, Politico reporter Kevin Robillard joining us from Washington. Thanks so much.
Great to be on.